The night the stars fell was the night two worlds quietly touched for the first time. The villagers of Vera Valley had gathered in the open fields, gazing up as trails of light danced across the dark heavens. Children pointed in wonder, elders whispered of omens. Among them was a curious 8-year-old boy named Aaron Vale, whose eyes gleamed brighter than the meteors themselves. He wasn't watching the sky for wishes, he was watching for meaning. When one of the stars crashed deep into the forest ridge, Aaron didn't hesitate. While others gasped and stepped back, he ran. His small feet pounded against the earth, his breath quick and excited. Something inside him, a strange tug of instinct, told him that this was not just falling light. He found it, a smoking crater surrounded by shattered trees and silver mist. But inside wasn't fire, it was a capsule half buried, shimmering faintly as if breathing. Aaron crept closer, shielding his face from the heat. Through a cracked window he saw movement, a small figure trembling, her face pressed against the glass. "Hey, don't be scared," he called, voice shaking but gentle. He tugged at the metal door until his palms burned, until it gave way with a hiss of air. The moment the door opened, a faint blue glow spilled out, revealing a little girl, not human yet heartbreakingly human-like. Her skin glowed faintly, pale as dawnlight, and her silver hair shimmered like moon threads. Her eyes, large, deep violet, met his, frightened and weak. Aaron reached a hand toward her. "It's okay. You're safe now." The girl blinked, trembling as she whispered something soft and melodic in a language he couldn't understand. But the tone, grateful, fragile, was universal. Aaron wrapped his coat around her tiny shoulders. She looked at the warmth spreading through the fabric, confused. He smiled. "That's called being warm. Humans like it." For days, Aaron hid her in his family's barn, sneaking food and blankets. He called her Lyra, after the constellation that had seemed to fall from the sky. She couldn't speak his words, but she watched him closely. His laughter, his care, his stubborn kindness. Slowly she began to mimic small sounds. "Aaron," she whispered one evening, her voice trembling but proud. He grinned. "That's me. You got it." But just as quickly as she had arrived, the soldiers came. They weren't human. They were tall, armored figures cloaked in silver light, searching the woods with devices that hummed. Aaron's heart raced as one pointed toward the barn. Lyra pressed her glowing hand to his cheek. Her eyes filled with fear and something else, affection. She whispered a string of sounds, her tone like a lullaby. He didn't understand the words, but he knew the feeling. Farewell. The soldiers took her. The barn door burst open in a flash of light, and she was gone, leaving behind only a faint blue feather of her clothing. Aaron stood there in the quiet, fist clenched, his heart hollow but burning with something fierce. Years passed. The villagers forgot the night of the falling stars. But Aaron never did. He kept the feather inside a wooden box, his only proof that the night wasn't a dream. He promised himself that if she was out there, somewhere among the stars, he'd find her again. He didn't know that across galaxies, a princess named Lyra of Australis, heir to the celestial dominion, kept a forbidden memory in her heart, of a human boy who once wrapped her in warmth and called her safe. She remembered his eyes, his courage, and his name. Because sometimes the smallest kindness burns brighter than 1,000 suns, and sometimes destiny begins not with war or prophecy, but with a boy who reached out his hand beneath falling stars. Years drifted like silent comets through the galaxy. The girl who once clung to a human boy's coat had become Princess Lyra of Australis, heir to a throne that shimmered in eternal twilight. The palace floated among clouds of crystal and silver, where stars whispered to marble. Halls and servants bowed so low their reflections bent in the floor's mirrored glow. But within that beauty, within her perfect posture and serene smile, there was a hollowness, a shadow she never spoke of. Her tutors praised her wisdom. Her generals admired her composure. The people adored her luminous grace. Yet every time she looked out her window toward the black expanse beyond their nebula, her pulse slowed, her eyes softened, and her heart whispered a single word: Aaron. It had been nearly 15 years. On her world, time flowed differently, slower, colder. The memory of the human child should have faded. But it hadn't, because warmth, she learned, was rarer than starlight. That memory, his trembling hand reaching for her in a blaze of courage, had carved itself deep inside her. When fear or duty choked her, she closed her eyes and saw him smiling in that soft human way. Imperfect, earnest, unguarded. But her world was changing. The celestial dominion had begun its expansion toward the outer colonies. Humanity, once a minor species, had grown bold, sending ships and settlements into the edges of Australia's space. And so diplomacy turned into warnings into skirmishes. Now the council whispered of war. "Your Highness," intoned General Varen, bowing before her as the great chamber's light rippled like liquid metal. "The humans trespass again. The High Council requests your approval to mobilize the vanguard." Lyray's jaw tightened. She tried to keep her voice calm, royal, detached. "And if we strike, what will that bring?" "Peace," Varen replied. Peace through strength. But the word peace burned strangely when spoken like that. She remembered Aaron's voice, soft and human. "That's called being warm." "Peace through strength," she repeated quietly. "Or fear through fire?" The room went still. No one dared answer. Later in her private chamber, an endless garden of light-filled lilies, Lyray sat beneath a glowing tree whose petals hummed faintly when touched. She held a small crystal pendant near her heart. Inside it shimmered the faintest blue strand, the same color as the feather that once fell from her robe on earth. She had kept it all these years, hidden from her court, a forbidden relic of weakness and warmth. "Who are you now, Aaron Vale?" she whispered into the stillness. She didn't know that far beyond her nebula. On a rugged colony planet named Arcadia, a young man stood under twin moons, his hands grease-stained from repairing an old starship. He was no longer the boy who chased meteors. He was a pilot now, a rescuer, part of a humanitarian fleet that salvaged wrecked vessels in conflict zones. Aaron Vale had grown into his promise. He didn't chase stars anymore. He saved what fell from them. That night, as he prepared his ship for another rescue mission, his partner called out, "Coordinates coming through. Lost freighter in Australis sector. You in?" Aaron looked at the coordinates, feeling a strange pull in his chest. Australis. The name stirred something buried, an echo of soft violet eyes and silver hair. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I'm in." And somewhere in a palace of light, Princess Lyray lifted her gaze to the horizon, as if hearing his voice carried across the stars. For the first time in years, she smiled, not the royal smile her people knew, but something fragile, alive. The universe was vast, yet warmth once shared had a way of finding its way back through the coldest reaches of space. The past wasn't gone. It was returning, and soon, the princess would learn that the boy who once saved her had become the man destined to change her entire world. The mission to Australis space was supposed to be simple. An emergency beacon, a damaged freighter, a rescue, and then home. But nothing about the Australis border was ever simple. Aaron Vale's ship, the Aurora's Wing, glided through a corridor of blue mist. His co-pilot Mira, a sharp-witted engineer with copper hair, frowned at the scanner. No life signs. But there's residual energy, same pattern as Australian tech. Aaron's fingers froze over the controls. Australian, he hadn't heard that name since the night that still haunted his dreams. The night he lost her. "Take us in slowly," he said, voice calm but tight. The wreck appeared from the haze, a glimmering shard of metal shaped like a wing, its once perfect symmetry broken and burning. The insignia of the celestial vanguard was scorched but unmistakable. This wasn't a freighter, it was a royal escort. Aaron activated the comms. "This is Captain Aaron Vale of the Aurora's Wing. Respond if you can hear me." Static. Then faintly a whisper of a voice, calm but strained. "Assistance. Life support failing." Mira's eyes widened. That's Australian dialect. "Someone's alive." Aaron didn't hesitate. "Lock onto the signal. Prepare medbay." They boarded the wreck. The corridor was half crumbled, flickering with strange violet fire. The air shimmered like broken glass. Inside the ruined chamber lay a single stasis pod, cracked and leaking light. Through its transparent cover, Aaron saw her. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming. The same silver hair, the same soft glow beneath pale skin. Older now, regal, beautiful, but unmistakably her, Lyray. He whispered. He didn't know her name. Not then. Not truly. But somehow his heart said it for him. Mira hurried beside him. "She's still breathing. Aaron, we need to move now." He lifted the pod's lid, his hands trembling as warmth and memory flooded back. The faintest sound escaped her lips, a whisper caught between languages. "En?" The sound of his name, spoken through time and distance, almost broke him. They brought her aboard the Aurora's wing. Erin worked wordlessly, stabilizing her vitals while Mira rerouted power to the medical systems. Hours passed in a haze of adrenaline and disbelief. Finally, the soft beeping steadied. She lived. When she awoke, the world around her was strange. Metal walls, humming lights, human machines. Lyray's eyes opened slowly, their violet glow dim but alive. The first thing she saw was him, tired, scarred, older. But his eyes, they hadn't changed. Her breath caught. "You grew up?" Erin froze mid-step, startled that she remembered. "And you still remember me?" Tears shimmered in her eyes. "How could I forget the boy who gave me warmth when my world was cold?" The air between them hung heavy, filled with unsaid years. "I searched," Erin murmured, stepping closer. "Everyone said Australis was off limits. But I knew you were real." Her hand rose trembling until it brushed his cheek, an echo of that childhood night reversed. "And I never stopped hearing your voice," she whispered. It became my light in the silence. But before the moment could settle, alarms blared. Mira shouted from the cockpit, "Multiple Australian cruisers incoming. They've tracked the signal." Lyray's expression hardened. "They think you've taken me hostage. You have to let me go." "Not happening," Erin said, his tone steel now. "I didn't lose you once to let you disappear again." Her gaze softened with something deeper. Respect, sorrow, hope. "Then you'll face a warship, Captain Vale. They won't show mercy." He smiled faintly, the same fearless grin from the boy who once ran toward fire. "Then let them come. I've waited my whole life to stand beside you again." Outside, the stars burned brighter as Australian warships emerged from the void. Inside, two hearts, once separated by galaxies, beat in the same rhythm again. And somewhere deep in the universe's unseen fabric, destiny whispered that this reunion was not chance. It was the beginning of something greater. The blackness of space erupted into light. Australian warships encircled the Aurora's wing, their hulls gleaming like molten silver, every curve alive with humming energy. Their formation was perfect, unforgiving, absolute. Erin gripped the control levers, heart pounding as Mira's voice cut through the chaos. 6 cruisers locking target. Shields can't take that kind of power." Lyray stood behind them, her presence almost unreal against the cold glow of the ship's cabin. Her royal insignia shimmered faintly on her collar, proof enough of who she was. "Stop," she said softly, her tone not loud but commanding. "They won't listen to reason unless I speak." Erin turned, eyes flashing. "They think I kidnapped you." "They won't fire if they believe I'm unharmed," Lyray said, stepping toward the comms panel. Her movements carried that same calm grace she had as a child, but now it was wrapped in the steel of a ruler. "Let me try." Erin hesitated, then nodded. She touched the console. The holographic projection flickered to life, a grand image of her face, regal and unflinching, appearing before the Australian fleet. "This is Princess Lyray of Australis," she declared, her voice echoing through the channels. "Ceasefire immediately. I am safe." Static. Then a deep, authoritative voice replied, "Your Highness, the Council believed you perished. You are aboard a human ship. We cannot confirm your safety without retrieval." Her eyes narrowed. "I said ceasefire. That is a royal command." Silence followed, but tension crackled through every second. Erin stepped closer, his voice low. "They're not standing down." Lyray's shoulders stiffened. "The Council fears humanity. They see every act of kindness as manipulation." She turned toward him, her eyes glimmering with both fear and conviction. "You must leave this space. If they capture you, they'll use you as proof of human deceit." He shook his head slowly. "You know I won't." She looked away, her breath trembling. "You're still the same boy who ran into fire. And you're still the girl who believed warmth was dangerous," he replied gently. "But look around, Lyray. We're both alive because of it." The ship shook violently, a warning shot. Mira yelled, "That was the last one before they hit for real." Lyray closed her eyes, then pressed her palm to the console. The lights flickered, reacting to her presence. "They're using royal command channels. I can override for 2 minutes, and what are you doing?" Erin asked. Her expression softened, a quiet sadness blooming behind her regal calm.
"Buying you time."
You must escape. Before he could respond, the ship's systems surged. A beam of radiant energy flared between the Aurora's wing and the nearest cruiser, creating a shimmering barrier of light. Lyra's doing. Her essence merged with the ship's circuits, her pulse sinking to its power. Lyra, Aaron shouted, gripping her shoulders. You can't, this'll drain you. She smiled faintly. Do you remember when I told you what warmth meant? His chest tightened. I remember you learning it. Her voice softened. Then let me return it. The barrier expanded, deflecting the first volley of plasma fire. For an instant, the universe glowed like dawn. Blue, white, and trembling with raw power. Inside the glow, Lyra's strength began to fade. Aaron caught her as her knees buckled. That's enough. You've done enough, she looked up weakly. No, Aaron, I haven't done enough until they see what humanity truly is. Then her hand brushed a control, broadcasting their feed across all Australian channels. The cameras captured everything. The human captain cradling their princess, not as a hostage but as a friend, desperate to save her life. A silence spread across the fleet. Then, a voice, hesitant, uncertain, came through the static. Stand down, it said. By royal decree, stand down. The Australian ships lowered their weapons. Aaron exhaled shakily, still holding her close. Her pulse was faint, but her lips curved in a fragile smile. See? She whispered. Peace. Through warmth. He laughed softly, a sound broken by relief. You've changed your world, Lyra. She closed her eyes. No, we did. Outside, the stars drifted in quiet witness, as the first fragile thread of peace between two civilizations began to weave itself, born not from conquest, but from a bond that had survived time, distance, and fear. And for the first time since the night of the falling stars, both Aaron Vale and Princess Lyra felt something neither had dared to hope for. A future. Peace, they say, is the quiet that follows fire. But for Aaron Vale and Princess Lyra, it was the quiet before the next storm. The Aurora's wing drifted within the neutral zone. Its engines low, its hull scorched from the battle that almost wasn't. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of ozone and tension. Aaron sat beside Lyra's bed, watching the faint pulse of light that still glowed beneath her skin. Life returning slowly. Like dawn creeping over a frozen field, Mira stepped quietly into the room, wiping soot from her hands. She's stabilizing, but her body's reacting to the energy transfer. Whatever she did out there, it wasn't meant for humans to survive. Aaron looked up, his eyes tired but unwavering. She will, Mira sighed. You don't even know her world's biology. If she burns out, she won't, he interrupted softly, then looked back at Lyra. She's stronger than anyone I've ever known. Lyra stirred, her voice faint. You shouldn't have stayed. Aaron leaned forward. I wasn't leaving you again. Her eyes opened, the violet glow dim but steady. You risked everything, Aaron, your people, your ship, why? He smiled gently, the same crooked smile that once reached her through a cracked capsule window. Because when I was a kid you fell from the sky, and I swore that if I ever found you again, I wouldn't let the stars take you away twice. She blinked back sudden tears, her composure cracking under the weight of simple human truth. For all her empire's glory, no one in Australis had ever spoken to her like that. Not as a princess, not as a symbol, but as a person. Before she could reply, the ship's console flickered. Mira's voice turned sharp. Aaron, multiple pings incoming. Australian interceptors again. Smaller crafts this time, but fast, Aaron stood. We can't fight. Not with her in this state. Lyra tried to sit up, grimacing. They're not soldiers. They're hunters. Council loyalists sent to erase any threat to their control. Mira frowned. You mean they're coming for you? Lyra nodded, guilt darkening her expression. They want to bury the truth of what they saw. The peace broadcast embarrassed the council. If I'm gone, they can claim it was human trickery. Aaron clenched his fists. Then we make sure they don't get that chance. He hurried to the cockpit. Lyra tried to follow but stumbled. Mira caught her arm gently. You can't push yourself yet. I must, Lyra said quietly. If I stay hidden, they'll only hunt him harder. Mira hesitated, then nodded. Then we fight smart. Moments later, the Aurora's wing burst through the fog of the neutral zone, stars streaking past like rain. Aaron's hands moved over the controls with practiced grace. Lyrae took the co-pilot's seat, her eyes focused, calm despite her weakness. The interceptors appeared on the scanner. 4 small ships, swift and angular. Aaron's voice was steady. "Hold on." They dove between asteroid fragments, the ship twisting and weaving as plasma fire streaked past. Lyrae reached out, her fingers glowing faintly as she brushed the nav system. Suddenly, the ship responded faster, more fluid, more alive. Aaron glanced at her, startled. "You're sinking," she said softly. "Your technology listens. I'm just helping it here." With her guidance, the Aurora's wing moved like a living creature, evading blasts that should have ended them. Aaron found an opening, fired the engines to full burn, and shot past the lead pursuer. The interceptor spun out, consumed by its own energy trail. Cheers erupted from Mira. "That's one down." But Lyrae's glow dimmed sharply. Her hand slipped from the console. "Aaron, it's too much." He caught her, guiding the ship with one hand, holding her with the other. "Stay with me. Just a little longer." Her breathing slowed, but she managed a faint smile. "You humans, you never stop fighting." "Neither do you," he murmured. "That's why we're the same." Outside, the remaining interceptors retreated, realizing their quarry had escaped beyond sensor range. Silence filled the cockpit once more. Aaron looked at her, pale and trembling but alive, and whispered, "You saved us again." Her reply was a whisper carried on a trembling breath. "No, Aaron. You saved what I thought I'd lost." "What's that?" he asked gently. She closed her eyes. Faith, in that fragile silence, surrounded by the endless dark 2 hearts, one human, one alien, found peace not in victory but in understanding. Yet neither of them knew that their brief moment of calm would soon unravel, because on Australis, far from the stars that shielded them, the Council was already moving. And this time, the storm would not come in ships but in betrayal. On Australis, the sky was not blue but liquid silver, reflecting the light of 3 suns. The great spires of the Celestial Council Hall shimmered in constant twilight, where nothing cast a shadow, except deceit. Inside, the council convened in a circle of luminous thrones. Voices murmured like a rising storm. Holograms displayed the forbidden broadcast. Princess Lyrae, pale but alive, being cradled by a human. Her soft words, "Peace through warmth," echoed through the chamber again and again. "Unacceptable," hissed High Chancellor Sarath, his crystalline eyes narrowing. She compromised royal sovereignty for the sake of a lesser species. Another counselor, older and quieter, murmured, "And yet the people have seen it." The broadcast went to every world. "There are protests, even songs of unity." "Unity?" Sarath snapped. "With humans? They are chaos embodied. They destroy what they touch. We built order from the void, and now our air praises the void itself." He stood, his armor glinting like shattered glass. "Issue the decree. Princess Lyrae of Australis is stripped of command and declared compromised by alien influence." Gasps filled the chamber. An elder protested weakly. "You would condemn your own princess?" "She condemns herself," Sarath said coldly. "And the human who defied our borders will be hunted, not as an enemy soldier but as a contagion. The Dominion will not burn for her weakness." Outside, hidden behind a mirrored corridor, a young aide stood trembling. She was Sora, Lyrae's personal attendant since childhood. Her eyes widened in horror as the words of exile filled the hall. Without hesitation, she turned and fled, knowing she had to warn her princess. Far across the galaxy aboard the Aurora's wing, Lyrae slowly regained her strength. She sat in the observation deck staring at the void beyond. Stars drifted like sleeping embers. Aaron entered quietly, carrying 2 mugs of steaming tea. "Mira says we might have to move soon. The ship's running low on fuel cells." Lyrae smiled faintly. "You humans drink warmth," she said softly. "You hold it, share it, pass it between hands. That's how your species survives the cold." He chuckled. "Something like that. It's called comfort." Her smile lingered but then faded. "I wish I could give my people that. Comfort without fear. Light without obedience." Before Aaron could answer, the ship's console beeped. A coded transmission. Mira appeared at the door. "Aaron, we've got an encrypted message, Australian origin." "It's using royal access." Lyrae's eyes widened. "Put it through." The hologram flickered to life, revealing Sora's face, pale, frantic, breathless. "Your Highness, you must listen, please." The council, They've declared you compromised. They've sent the vanguard. They're coming for both of you. Liray's pulse quickened. No, that can't be. Sora's voice broke. They're calling it a purification. They mean to erase all trace of your contact with humanity. The transmission cut abruptly. Signal jammed. Aaron clenched his jaw. So they're not after peace anymore. They never were, Liray whispered. They fear change more than war. Mira slammed her fist on the console. Then what do? We can't outrun an entire dominion. Liray stood, her eyes steady now. No, but we can reach them first. Aaron looked at her sharply. You mean? She nodded. If I confront the council in person, before Serath turns my people against me completely, I can show them the truth. They must see humanity's heart, not its weapons. Mira frowned. That's suicide. Liray met Aaron's gaze. Then I won't go alone. He didn't hesitate. You won't. She reached for his hand, cool, glowing softly against his rough human skin. You've walked into fire before, Aaron Vale. Will you walk into the heart of my world with me? He smiled faintly. If that's where the truth is, I'll walk there every time. Her breath trembled. You may not come back. Then I'll at least make sure you do. Outside, the stars seemed to hold their breath. The Aurora's wing shifted course, turning toward Astrilis, the shining heart of the Dominion, and now, the center of a storm that would decide the fate of two civilizations. And somewhere, beneath the quiet hum of the engines, Liray whispered into the void, This time, Aaron, it's my turn to save you. The stars did not answer, but they watched. Because soon the light of one human heart would burn brighter than the empire that sought to extinguish it. The Aurora's wing broke through the shimmering veil of Astrilis' upper atmosphere, like a single spark diving into a sea of light. Below stretched a world of crystal oceans and floating citadels, a realm of beauty so perfect it seemed untouched by sorrow. But as they descended, the calm shimmered with tension. Defense beacons glowed like angry stars, and fleets of silver warships hovered above the capital city, Vera Prime. Mira's voice trembled through the comms. We're being hailed by the Vanguard fleet. They're demanding identification. Aaron's hands hovered over the controls. If we respond, they'll trace us in seconds. Liray stepped forward. Then let them. She moved to the center of the bridge, her glow returning, faint but resolute. Open the channel. The main screen filled with the face of High Chancellor Serath, his expression cold and carved from ice. Princess Liray, he said slowly, as if tasting the word. You return to Astralis carrying the infection of humanity. Stand down your vessel. You will be judged before the council. Liray lifted her chin, calm but fierce. I come not for judgment, Chancellor, but for truth. Truth? His voice dripped with disdain. You broadcast weakness to the galaxy. You let the Dominion's enemies see us kneel to a human. Aaron stepped beside her, his gaze steady. She didn't kneel. She stood up for peace for both of us. Serath's lip curled. You speak as if your kind understands peace. You destroy your own world and call it progress. You are chaos wrapped in sentiment. Aaron didn't flinch. Then maybe sentiment is what your world's been missing. Gasps echoed faintly through the open transmission. Behind Serath, counselors shifted uneasily. Liray took a step forward, her voice rising. Not in anger, but in quiet conviction that carried more power than any shout. You see humanity's scars and call them flaws. But I've seen their courage. I've seen a child run into fire for a stranger who fell from the stars. I've seen kindness that costs nothing and means everything. Her eyes softened as she looked at Aaron. If that is weakness, then I choose it. The hall behind Serath rippled with murmurs. The broadcast, as before, had reached across Astralis. Billions were watching. Workers in the light mines, scholars in the spire libraries, children in the floating schools. For the first time, they saw their princess not as a distant emblem of perfection, but as someone real, someone brave enough to love. Serath's composure fractured. Enough! Guards seize her. But before his order could be completed, the chamber lights dimmed. A familiar voice, gentle but firm, cut through the static. Stand down, said Elder Saren, the oldest of the council. His holographic form appeared beside Serath, his eyes full of quiet understanding. The Dominion was born from the ashes of war, Chancellor. Perhaps it is time we learn peace not through control, but through compassion. The guards hesitated. Then one by one they lowered their weapons. Serath's fury burned white-hot, but he could feel his grip slipping. "You would trust them?" he hissed. "These fragile creatures?" Liray turned toward him, her expression calm but unyielding. "Yes, because fragility is not failure, it's the courage to feel." And with that, she reached out her hand, not toward Serath, but toward the image of her people behind him. "If I must stand between fear and hope, then I will stand alone." For a moment, silence reigned. Then a sound began, soft rising, echoing across channels and cities alike. Applause. Not the ceremonial kind, but something pure, human, alive. Aaron exhaled, almost laughing. "Looks like your people made their choice." Liray's eyes glistened. "No, Aaron, we made it together." The broadcast ended. Serath vanished in disgrace. The war that might have begun between their worlds dissolved before it ever took flame. Days later, as the Aurora's wing floated above Astrialis's dawn horizon, Aaron stood beside Liray in the observation bay. The light painted their faces in gold and silver. "So," he said quietly, "what happens now, Princess?" She smiled softly. "Now my people learn what yours already knew, that peace isn't found in power but in hearts willing to understand." He chuckled. "That sounds like something you'd tell a stubborn boy chasing falling stars." Her eyes warmed. "And he'd still run toward them, wouldn't he?" Every time. They stood in silence for a long while, watching the sun rise over her world, a world forever changed by the smallest act of courage, and by a love that had crossed galaxies without needing to be spoken aloud.